or colleges that came to me wanting to teach my technology in the U.S. for Christian schools, and they all said no. After I got there, they said, we're not allowed to teach what you have. If we do, we lose our standing. We are no longer a college. We're no longer accredited, and all of our professors will lose their degrees. So this year's honor this week was the Nobel Prize Committee asking Obama for his Nobel Prize back. I thought that was good. That's a good start. Because when they called me up and said, would you be interested? I said, hell no, not if you give it to people like that. I'm sorry. If you're going to give it to murderers and thieves, and I don't want your prize, it has no more value.
Well, I think I was pretty accurate when I told you, my audience here, that Obama's the perfect New World Order leader. I mean, he's black, he's white, he's Muslim, he's Jewish, he's Christian, he's all things to all men. What's that?
Yeah, he changed his phone like a chameleon.
You know, and we've, I mean, talk about a drug addict, talk about homosexual. He declared my birthday, or June. I was born in June. He declared that the GLBT month, the gay, lesbian, transsexual, bisexual. Yeah, come on. I mean, what he is doing is trying to destroy the morals of America. Yeah, he's so if his goal is to tear down America, then he's doing an excellent job, isn't he?
Yes, he is. I get about 5 to 10 calls a day from people when I tell them about the 1951 National Security Act that said they've never heard of it. I mean, of course you haven't. We got a copy of it we sent out from 1951 that was modified in 1971, but after that, the National Security Agency said, we don't want the public to know exactly what we're doing. This has to be kept in secret. So even under the Freedom of Information Act, nobody can find out what is national security. So 71 was the last public issuance, but it's a law. So we have to send this out to about 5-10 people a day. Then they start understanding, oh, it affects everything. Radio transmission, solar panels, no matter what you try to patent, the government has the right to take it from you without paying you a dime. So they're going to spend all the money you've got, all the money you can raise doing it, and we're just going to take it from you. We don't care.
Now, you talk about on your website here the Extraordinary Technology Conference coming up, and that's right there in Albuquerque, July 30th to August 3rd. I went to the last one, or a couple of years ago, and I kept asking, how come nobody's got any Tesla devices? How come nobody's got a magnetic motor here? How come?
Well, I've been going to these conferences since the guy who founded that one, Steve Ellsworth, invited me the first time in 1994. And I've gone almost every year. And it's really funny, because anybody who has anything that works, usually during the setup day, they disappear. And you don't see them again. The guys in black suits show up and say, we need to talk to you outside, and a few minutes later, the other guys come in and clean your booth out. So, do you really want to show what you can do in the public? Yeah. Now it's gotten so bad, one of the states yesterday, I don't remember which one, the news is just overwhelmingly horrible. I catch it all on the underground news programs, but one of the states is saying that they're trying, and California here, Oxford and Feinstein, is trying to pass a bill where relatives will get a reward for turning other relatives in that have guns. Wow, that sounds familiar. Hitler did that.
And Hitler, I mean, whatever they want to blame Hitler for, the Joe Stalin, Uncle Joe to our president, Uncle Joe killed. If Hitler killed 6 million, which he didn't, Uncle Joe killed 60 million white Christian Russians, and then we had a Cold War. Oh, the Russians are coming! The Russians are coming! Be afraid! Be very, very afraid! The Russians are coming! I see the Russians and the Germans as victims the same way I see Americans as victims. They ain't the problem. It's not America. It's not our American veterans. It's not our American troops that are going over country after country and killing a few million residents of another country, whether it's Iraq or whether it's Libya or Syria. I mean, we're being sent over there, but we're not where the orders come from somewhere else.
Yeah. I think most of that's coming from bankers, to be honest with you. That's my feeling. And they've been controlling the game for years. And, yeah, they do bring their puppets in to run things. But, yeah, it doesn't matter if we're selling them guns or Russia or somebody else. The bankers are making money. And they didn't have the money to buy the guns and the bullets, so we have to give them the money to do that, charge them a high interest, and we learn the day other end, end up with their property. So they've been doing this for hundreds of years. They're not going to stop. It's all a dirty political game. I'm just sad to see that this country has gone so far downhill. The family values, what family values? I mean, it's pretty bad when your kid comes in saying, yeah, here's a new list from school. They want me to check the fridge and see how many beers there are and if we have any open containers of alcohol in the house. And teacher wants to know if anybody here does drugs. And if we fill out all of this, then we get extra credit. What does all that to do with adding 2 and 2 or spelling, history? I mean, come on. We've lost the school system. Unless we take it back and do something about it, we've lost it. There have been a couple of busts I read about here in the last few months that I wanted to cry. And people who homeschool, all of a sudden the Board of Education shows up at the Sheriff's Department to do an inspection on your school. Because it doesn't say just public schools in the law, it says schools. You can't have drugs, guns, knives, or anything near a school. You've got a 500-foot to 2,000-foot setback. Oh, you have knives in the kitchen. That's 5 years for every knife you have. Oh, you have beer in the fridge. Oh, there's not a lock on it. The kids have access to it. Oh, you're going to get in trouble for having alcohol with kids in school. You got a gun locked up in the vault? Well, it's still within. Even if it's in the vault, it's still within that half mile of the school. You can't do that. I'm sorry. When did we give up our Constitution, Bill of Rights,
well,
all of our rights?
I'd say easily in the 30s when Roosevelt pledged us, stole all of our gold, forced you to turn your gold in for $16 an ounce, and then he pledged you and your children as collateral to the bankers, and then they made our #1 cash crop the mainstay of every farmer, the crop that George Washington said, sow it everywhere, hemp. They turned it into marijuana and made it illegal and put a tax on it.
Yep.
So you couldn't afford to grow it.
My dad told me that when he was a kid at 12 years old, all the kids in school that he went to school with all wanted to smoke it, but they couldn't get it, so they'd send him in because anybody old enough to put money on the counter at a pharmacy could buy it by the minute. And I looked at him and I said, "You're selling ounce?" He said, "Oh, you can buy it by the ounce," but a lid was one of the old-fashioned Prince Albert can lids, and they'd fill that up, smooth across the top, and they'd put that into a container, and then you got that. It was enough to make 3 or 4 joints. But it was only like 10 cents. And you could only buy it at pharmacies, but you didn't have to have a prescription. Anybody, even a 12-year-old, could buy it. And that was when he was a kid growing up.
I remember I had a woman that lived behind the convenience store that I worked at, and she'd go to the pharmacy and buy laudanum, buy opium, basically.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think it should go back that way, Paul. I think free trade, tear down that wall between us and Mexico. Obviously, it's there to keep us in, and not to keep the Mexicans out. And well, we can't have you going down to Mexico and getting laid and going to the dentist, you know. So you better have your passport in order, or we won't let you back in. I say tear down that wall, put it up tables, and declare real free trade. Let all the Colombians come up and put their pot, their cocaine, their heroin, whatever they got, put it on the table. Abolish the laws against victimless crimes. If you want to take some home with you, go down and pay your duty. Let them pay the duty on it, and nobody goes to jail for it. If you want to kill yourself with heroin, go over in that corner over there.
Yeah, I went over to Amsterdam years ago, when you could still go down there. There was 3 streets there where there's prostitution and pot and anything else you wanted to add. And he said you go up and down, you could walk into the store and buy whatever you want and smoke it there. You could have a small amount on you. They didn't really care. If you wanted to use heroin or something stronger than that, you could go down to the government-run drugstore for addicts, and you walk in, you give them $3 or $5, a ridiculously small amount, and they give you an injection with a fresh needle. They break the needle and throw it away, but they hold your passport and your driver's license at the store while you're across the street in a state-owned park, and they want to make sure you have a beautiful trip and you're not out ripping people off or hurting anyone. But they make it so affordable that most people that we're doing it decided not to anymore. There's more excitement.
If it's affordable, if you're buying a plant there, you know, then you don't have to go out and rob and steal to get high.
Yeah.
Now, people have asked me, well, Clay, isn't marijuana a gateway drug? Oh, absolutely. If you gotta go to a drug dealer to get it, if you can grow it in your backyard, if you can grow it in your living room, instead of a Christmas tree there, you grow a pot plant in your living room. If you don't have to go to a drug dealer, they probably don't. They won't be selling you the heroin. They won't be selling you the methamphetamine. They won't be selling you the cocaine.
Right.
And if you got a little bit of cocaine in your pocket, and a cop, man with a badge, comes up and throws you in jail for what you got in your pocket, I'm sorry, folks, that should be a real clue to you that you live in a police state.
Yep.
And then they want to charge you, tax you, take your taxes, and to the tune of $50,000 a year to feed and clothe somebody that had a little bit of cocaine in his pocket.
Oh, it was a lot worse than that. When they first arrested me and said I was delusional, they had to hold me in the jail while they waited till a room was available at the hospital. It was a bullshit, they said. And while I was in jail, I walked around with my dad and asking everybody questions, and all the other prisoners, getting interviews, and what are you here for? And they, oh, I'm here because they caught me with a pencil or a pen in my car. That's against the law? Well, they're holding me for 6 months for suspicion of a possible forgery instrument. And I about fell over the first time I heard it. So when over half the guys in that unit were held for the same thing, we're talking U.S. Marines and other guys that have served for this country, but they happen to be black or Mexican. And if you looked at the unit I was in, there was only, I think, 2 or 3 white guys there, other than the guards, and everybody else was black or Mexican. Well, Utah doesn't have the population ratio high on black and Mexicans. It's just they don't happen to like them. So we're going to screw with all of them. We're going to just arrest them and keep arresting them and arrest them again. And then I saw this one white guy come in. I walked over and I said, what are you in for? He said, I busted a cop's window. I said, what on earth? He said, I needed a place to sleep, and it's warm in here, and they feed me 3 meals a day. I do it every year.
Uh-oh. Now, be careful here, Paul. You're giving away my retirement secret.
Oh, jeez. But there was somebody who likes to panhandle and enjoy life and sleep under the bridges and never have any responsibility. But during the winter, oh, he likes to have that roof over his head. And I was totally shocked. It was like you actually walked up and threw a rock through a cop's windshield. Yeah. I learned him doing yesterday. I was like, oh, okay. That's why there are too many white guys here. Uh-huh. The only way you can get arrested there in the ride is you're either not a member of the church or you really did something bad. Or you're a political prisoner like I was. And I was surprised at the number of political prisoners they put into that place. If you don't go along with what that group does in Utah, you go to jail. That's it.
Now, they're telling me in the chat room that Jerry says, where I live in southern Wisconsin is rapidly being overrun with illegals everywhere.
It's like going on an anti loose. And when they take off, they start spreading. Well, I live down here in New Mexico, and there's a lot of them here. We're outnumbered. Well, that's good. That's the law, Jerry. You can do some of the good, some of the bad. But hey, you know what's going to happen in any nationality? Well, we keep bashing our government, but we got to look at the other side. I mean, look at all these other horrible governments out there. And they're all doing the same thing. Every place we've taken heat, their first concern is the money they're going to lose if people get better mileage. And that's true in every country. Even China and Japan have the same politics. Canada, Europe. Oh, we can't be allowing you to open your shops up here. We don't mind people putting it on their own car, but they have to take the heat off the car before they can sell it. We don't want a lot of people getting good mileage.
Well, I consider that a direct attack on me. I don't work on the Harley. I don't work on motors. I don't work on electricity, but, you know, I certainly don't mind buying something from somebody else. You wanna, if you make a carburetor and you can put it on for me, I'll certainly pay you for it, you know, but they don't want that.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. I already know you. Come on. We go back 36 years here. No, you would not want it. Every guy who had bought the plants and put it on a Harley gets back in touch with me saying, well, mileage is great, but it doesn't sound like a Harley anymore. It sounds more like a little Honda. You want to that thing off so I could get some sound.
We'd probably have to modify it a little bit so we got good stereo speakers and play the sound of our...
That's it, yeah. You have to have that stuff because bikers don't want to get away from the sound of that Harley.
That's
And when you look at an engine, we did one lawnmower we demonstrated in California a couple places, and we call it a closed loop system. 100% of the exhaust is rerouted into a box and then fed back into the intake of the engine. And when you do that, there is no outside resonance of sound, so you don't hear the engine running at all. And we've had people walk up and start to stick their fingers under the lawnmower to see if the blades are spinning. So it becomes really dangerous. Putting heat on a lawnmower is not safe unless you put it on with a strobe light or something where people can see the engines running.
well, that's
If you're living without cutting his lawn on a Sunday morning and you couldn't hear anything except birds chirping, oh wait, you don't hear too many birds chirping anymore. Never mind.
Well, you know, maybe you could just tell people it's just a BMW. You know, it looks like a Harley, but it's a BMW now. Doesn't make the noise of a Harley. That would be a real drawback. But I'm willing to bet if you can get 100 miles a gallon on a Harley, you might give up the sound or figure out a way to make it sound better.
Yeah.
But
well, like I said, a good set of speakers to do that. Well, you know, just to make it sound like you're going rev. People looking at you trying to figure out how come the engine's revving up when he's sitting still. Yeah.
Now, Paul, I have, you know, I've been looking for... Hang on a minute. We got time to warm the coffee up. Take a leak. We'll be right back with Paul Pantone.
Really going on in the world that mainstream media won't tell you. At Truth Radio, you can listen live or listen to a large selection of archived programs. TruthRadio.com. The truth is out there.
Good radios normally come in large packages. I have a really good radio. This is a brand new digital radio that's tiny. So small, it'll fit in a man's shirt pocket. This radio, AM, FM, shortwave, with a rip antenna, works well. It is really sensitive. I was so impressed that when I received the offer to buy a quantity of these at a very reasonable, low price, I just knew that it would be a blessing to you if I went for it. And I did. And we have them. And they have arrived. Here they are. I'd be happy to send you one. The contribution you make doesn't have to be very large at all. Just remember the needs of Truth Radio when you ask for a little radio, and we'll be happy to send you one as a thanks for your support for Truth Radio. Our address is P.O. Box 344, zip code 93444.
Alright, a little commercial there for Richard Palmquist at Truth Radio. I've been broadcasting on Truth for, well over 20 years now. And I've been doing this, Paul, and I tried to promote you back in the 80s. Out there in California, and since, so I really got we've got the answers, the technology's there, but recently the Harley broke down. I had to put it in the shop, and just finally had to borrow the money to get it out of the shop. It's trying to organize people, It's like they always find some fault with you. Well, you're promoting Hitler. I see you've got Mein Kampf up there. Yes, I do. Yes, I've got a video up there that talks about Germany and how Hitler, when he took power, after the Jews declared war on Germany, tried to do a boycott, and they declared war on Germans, not Hitler, but Germans, with a full-page ad in the New York Times. Hitler brought Germany back from pretty much a total poverty to a world power, a world-class power. Doesn't mean he was a good guy, but Uncle Joe Stalin, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Winston Churchill, basically communists, did more damage, killed more people, raped more people with their troops, bombed places like Dresden that wasn't a military target. If you want to talk about bad guys, they want to accuse Hitler of killing 6 million Jews, but Stalin killed 60 million Christians. How come you're not told about that? Because the victors write the history, and we don't speak German, so we don't know the other side of the story. Now, I've had, again, even my friends tell me, well, Hitler was this, Hitler was that. I can't stand by and watch you promote him. I'm not promoting anybody. I am studying history, and I'm trying to give you the truth, not just written by the victors, not by the controlled press. I'm trying to tell you, here's what's happening. And if your government, I'm nobody more I'm not anti-government. I'm pro-government. I just want the constitutional republic guaranteed me, not the communist facade that we've got. If you can't get good gas mileage, if you're forbidden by your own government to get good gas mileage, if you're forbidden by your own government to sell your device, your invention that will allow people to run their generators and run their automobiles off of the sun or the wind or the pond scum, then you're the bad guy. This isn't the land of the free and the home of the brave anymore. It's the home of enslaved. You've been enslaved economically. And if I'm against that, am I anti-government? You know, it's kind of like the ADL listed me in armed and dangerous. I called him up in New York. I said, "This is Clay Douglas. I just wanted you assholes to know you finally got something right. I am armed. If you threaten my country, you threaten my family, I'm definitely dangerous." Now, I got Dr. D-Charge on my website, my friend David Koss, who taught me how to spin my water, spin my coffee, so the electrons are flowing in the correct direction instead of negatively, like they come out of like the water comes out of the faucet. And he wanted to run for president. I told him, you know, I'm all for you, but you won't make it because they won't tell anybody that you're running.
Yep.
And I've been through that with a presidential candidate, legitimate presidential candidate, 1996, Charles Collins. You met him.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody, every time he got up to speak, they turned televisions off. They turned the cameras off. They pointed them at the ground. We'd get up there, we'd put Collins for president up on the walls beside Buchanan, beside Dole, beside Allen Keyes. And I get up the next morning and go into the hall, and there wasn't a Collins sticker anywhere.
Yep.
So Dr. D-Charge, his campaign is hemp and hydrogen in 2016. I think hemp and hydrogen could change the whole dynamics of the situation. It could put the money back into your hands instead of, if all the farmers were growing hemp, restoring their soil, and then right after that hemp is a rotational crop. You plant, you know, homemade, homegrown tomatoes, your lettuce, and we've got 6 states, actually. A place called Bright Farms has made a deal with the supermarket chains to put greenhouses on their roof, to put greenhouses on their parking lots. And so the vegetables that you buy, you don't have to pay for the gasoline to bring it from Mexico. You can eat it the same day it's picked, right there locally. And we could do the same thing, Paul, in Detroit. We could take Detroit. You and I could go into Detroit if we had the money, if we had the backing, and convert these old buildings there, put gardens on the roof, put solars on the roof, and rehabilitate whole neighborhoods that look worse than Hiroshima, which was hit with an atomic bomb. Detroit's in worse shape than Nagasaki or Hiroshima now.
Yeah, I was watching videos on that yesterday. It made me sick to my stomach. There isn't much left. The city hasn't got any money to fix them. Yeah, it's we can afford to bail out Wall Street, but we can't help the city. But who do we blame for all the Chinese and Japanese car companies sending cars in here now instead of making American? Well, we've got to blame the government there because they allowed it. Instead of trying to support our own internal economy and keeping our people working, We built crap for 50, 60 years, sold it to the public, and now the public is getting better quality from foreign countries. They'd rather have a good running car. If you'd have told me 30, 40 years ago that Toyota would add GM here, I would have laughed at you. Or Hyundai, a new car company coming in from Korea, they're going to sell cars here? I mean, yeah, I ain't going to buy that. But now, they're building some damn nice silicon cars. They don't get good mileage, but then again, America doesn't want good mileage. If it runs too good, don't bring it in. I don't teach you that you can teach for free. Teach them everything they can know so they can go back and do it. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm right. I'm here. You broke up there for a second, but I'm still here. Still got you.
So, people want to learn how to be self-sufficient. Some of them don't live in the city, and cities aren't going to let you put a garden in. They're not going to let you do this. They're not going to let you work on your car in the street. So unless you've got garage and a little bit of country living, you're in deep doo-doo. And if you live out in the country, I think you have a lot better chance of survival than you do in the city.
Well, you know, I propose growing your food in your backyard, not grass. And they did that they've done that in a few towns, Glendale, California. Up in Arlington, they have a group call themselves the Garden of Eden. And they were growing their own food. And the jackbooted thugs came in, handcuffed them, and stomped on their tomato plants. No drugs there, no pot there.
Yep.
And all it was a exercise in terror, you know, to make you afraid of growing your own food, of being self-sufficient.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny because earlier you brought up Charles Collins, and we did bring Hitler into the picture here. But Charles Collins used to have a big Sharon man down in, I think it was Georgia.
Yeah, Forsyth, Georgia.
I'm sorry, what?
Charles lived in Forsyth, Georgia. Had a home there, an acreage there, building his own
when he was a kid, he had a Sheraton hotel that had 2 stages, and one of his favorite customers was a guy named Hitler. And Hitler would come over with his wife, and that's where he had all of our U.S. meetings with government people from Washington, and they'd all come down there and talk about it, and he was trying to cut a deal on fuel. And our government said, no, we can't back you on that one. You know, we've been staying out of the limelight. We don't want people to know we're working with you to help you. And that was before the war broke out. That's okay. I knew you were going to do that. So we've already set up ways of teaching people how to grow algae and how to use wood for fuel. And we're going to be opening public schools up. I want every citizen in my country to know how to run their vehicle without gasoline. So I really don't need your steak and oil. I just asked to see if you'd give it to me. And I was like, really? This guy was that advanced back then? Well, yeah, you can go on the internet today and look up wood stoves, wood gasifiers. He taught that publicly for nothing. Anybody who wanted to come in and learn how to power your car or your truck so you could still feed your family, sure, come on in.
Even
wow.
Today, the farms in Germany, now this is after going through the whole communist stage, and they didn't run the communists off, they just consolidated, kind of like the fascist Republicans working in Congress with the communist Democrats, 2 wings of the same bird, but they ain't putting any money in your pocket. It's in Germany today. Every farmhouse, Paul, every farmhouse has solar on the roof and a wind generator sitting outside.
Yep.
And one of the things that I really like, there's some people that have made asphalt panels, little probably 2 foot, 3 foot square panels of solar with LED lights in it, and they propose using that for roadways. So if a deer walks across this pressure sensitive, they'll light up so you can see them in the dark.
Yep.
And there's what they've done is so that what they can do is turn every road, instead of putting blacktop oil based asphalt on it, they put solar panels on it, so your whole roadways turn into an energy collecting device. So you don't even have to build these ugly mirrors, fields of solar collectors. You can turn your blacktop roads into brightly lit solar collectors. Imagine if our interstate system had been built that way. we'd have a whole different future.
White House sitting out there that has some guts. They would like to put together a neat report for his paperwork, because when we were doing our testing, we laid the smog tester down on the asphalt one day while we were running the engine, and it was a warm day, and the vapors coming off the asphalt were putting out more pollution than the car. So then we put a tent up, a black plastic tent on a 20 by 20 foot area, and we started up a 10 horsepower engine with 2 generators, and we ran it until 2 hours after the sun went down off the vapors from asphalt. And I went, holy, you know what? If we shut down every car and truck in the United States for one day, the asphalt is going to put out more pollution than the vehicles do. Why are we oil companies are telling Congress we have to because it's garbage and it breaks down and it has to be repaired constantly. Oh, okay, that's why we're doing it. Because that's in the 19 for Congress. And that special committee, which is we don't want to look at those 3 things at work. We're going to stick with that. Waste product from oil, when you're making asphalt, one of the biggest waste products is gasoline. We'll just raise the price on gas, put down roads that break down every few years, so we have to constantly repair them and replace them, and look at all the money we're going to make. We had technology in the 40s presented to Congress, or the committee, that would outlast what we have today by 50 years. But we're not allowed to use it. But it hurt the oil companies.
Well, it's the oil companies, it's the Rockefellers, it's the DuPonts, it's the Hearsts out there cutting forests down to make paper out of. That and paper, there's paper they're making ain't worth wiping your ass with. But they're the ones that got hemp made illegal, made you a criminal. It's like Ayn Rand said 50 years ago, the government has no control over honest citizens, so they have to make criminals out of us. That's what your drug law is about, that's what your tax law is about. And this was the Rockefellers, this was the Hearst, these are the people of the Morgans, this is Jekyll Island, this is the Federal Reserve System. These are nothing but tyrants. We can have a non-disposable economy. We can build homes for a fraction of the cost. I've got small houses here. I got links up on my website to small houses that you can build for $20,000. They've got great insulation and a great and you could put 5 of them together for the cost of one house on a city block, and do it on an acre or so, and live together and work together, grow your own food, and work together. This is the whole Liberty Village concept in action. We've really got the answers here, Paul, and yet we got no financing. We got nobody. No, they want to talk about us. call us a radicals, call us a conspiracy theorist, call us any name, anti-government, anti-Semitic, whatever name, racist. Oh, you're a racist because I don't care who your grandmother was born, who your grandmother slept with. I don't care what religion you were born in. You're a human being. You breathe, you bleed.
Yep.
And why shouldn't you work together with people that speak your own language? Why shouldn't you work with people, again, that are the same color as you? I mean, I'm not a racist, but I have been in prisons and had to sleep next to somebody playing rap music. That'll turn you into a racist. But, I'm a Texan, man. I like living with other Texans. I like the outdoors. I like what we can do. I like who we are. Now, what they've done is divide and conquer. Well, Clay smokes pot. Clay promotes marijuana. He wants drugs. He wants free drugs. They find anything out they can. Oh, Clay doesn't like Jews. I don't, come on. Clay doesn't like blacks. Clay doesn't like... None of that's true. I don't care what color you are. If you can rise above the programming, if you can rise above the peer pressure, we've got a chance here. If you can't, then we're pretty much doomed. If we don't learn from our mistakes, if we don't learn from history, if we don't access the knowledge that's been gathered for us, then we got a problem. But all the knowledge is there, and we've got the internet, Paul. We didn't even have this back when I wrote my books, some of my books 45 years ago. I talked about IBM Selectric typewriters in offices. I had no idea what was coming with the computers. I had no idea of the technology that we would soon discover.
Well, I fought and refused to learn how to use a computer until about 1999. And I finally had to give in. I had to learn it.
Well, that's part of my problem here is that all of my subscribers, they wanted to buy those hard copy magazines, and I might have been lucky to make 25 cents off of a Free American magazine after I paid Hearst for the paper, after I paid the Rockefellers for the gasoline to deliver it, after I paid DuPont for the ink to print them. I might have made, and after I paid Barnes & Noble to hide it behind the cookbooks, I might have made a quarter.
Yep.
Today, you can buy the magazine for $2.99 and read about the Navy running their ships on water. What I talked about, what you considered science fiction 45 years ago, is happening now. So was I writing science fiction, or was I a prophet? It's hard to tell.
Well, that's like saying Gene Roddenberry with Star Wars or Star Trek. Was he able to see the future? How come 200 of the inventions that he had on his show exist now? They didn't when he wrote it. Everything from a plasma reactor. Oh wait, that's what I invented. Okay, all the way to injections without needles. All those things he's come up with. Can you imagine somebody just flipping open their transponder and talking to someone else? And some you can even have a picture? Wow.
Yeah, our cell phones today are even more advanced than Star Trek communicators.
Yep. You gotta start somewhere. obviously dark. I don't know if you can hear it.
David Guy says, I think Clayton could be Jules Verne reincarnated again. But you know what? I wrote 45 years ago, and I'm really trying to concentrate and do the editing on some of the novels I started 45 years ago. I didn't publish them then because I thought I needed more information. I thought I needed more research. And I have traveled to 8 or 9 countries and 49 states to do that research. I go back and read what I wrote then, and what I wrote about then in my Solomon series was a man came along, abolished, took over some of the made movies, communicated, got a president elected, got some honest congressmen elected, and abolished all laws against victimless crime, shut down the whole prison systems for profit, prisons for profit that we're faced with today. They're putting your children in prison, giving them sentences, and selling them to these private prisons, shipping them off to these private prisons. I wrote about an end to all that in 46 states. It was almost too radical for science fiction even back then. But with what's happening in Colorado, what's happening in Washington, what's happening in Alaska, it's a wave of the future, and in a very short time, in a few years' time, the medicinal and the advantages of pot, of hemp, of cannabis is going to be apparent, and you're going to see, because they still are greedy, they still want their money, and Colorado is making billions off of taxes on marijuana, because people from all over the country are going to Colorado just to be able to smoke a joint without going to prison for it. I may be one of them.
The number of people who tell me they can't come here from foreign countries because they can't get a passport to come into the U.S. because they got busted in the past for marijuana. And it's like, well, you know what? I don't smoke this stuff. I tried it a couple times. If I want to go to sleep, that's a good way for me to go to sleep. I take one puff, maybe two, and I'm gone. So I don't like that feeling. And then I wake up 10, 12 hours later going, where am I? I'd rather have a cold beer. It's nothing all different. I've never put anybody else down for it. If you want to smoke some stuff, that's fine, but how about I drive? I've seen guys that can handle it real well, and other guys that can't.
You know, that's strange to me. When I was in the hospital, they told me, boy, you were one mean son of a bitch, boy. You pulled pictures off the walls, beat us over the head with it. They were giving me Valium. I said, are you insane? Didn't anyone tell you I almost killed the first guy that gave me a Valium? You know, don't like that. Don't like downers. Don't like reds. Don't like Valium. But I can smoke a joint and function normally. Doesn't put me to sleep. Doesn't get me. I don't even get stoned anymore. You know, it just relaxes me. I mean. And the research is proving that actually cannabis, for most of us, cannabis is it has a symbiotic effect on us.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I went into a restaurant, and Molly and I were still together. I went into a restaurant that east, and we got about maybe 6 steps into the restaurant. I had to grab a trash can and vomit. It was just the air in the place got to me so bad, it was horrible. I went running out the door vomiting. And everybody was looking at me like, what the hell's wrong with him? Well, a few seconds later, it hit Molly. So she comes running out right behind me. But she's throwing up. Well, the cook came out going, what the heck? What's wrong? I haven't even eaten yet.
What was it?
Ozone. They have ozone machines all over the restaurant to make everybody healthy. Well, what works for one person doesn't work for everyone.
Well,
I have to have bad reactions if I get into a room that has too much oxygen. So even when I'm running deep, I have to run deep with the windows open. But I will, for the demonstration purposes, for 15, 20 minutes, I'll do it in a small hotel room. I'll run the engine right in the hotel room. And nobody's running for the window to open the air. I have to open it so I can get some polluted air in. I can't handle the clean air. So during tests, we had one kid in California. He put himself in a room, the doors closed, windows closed. He was running the engine for 8.5 hours, hooked to an analyzer, writing down every 20 minutes what the emissions were coming out of the engine. And by the time I got back after being gone for 8.5 hours, the oxygen level in the room had gone from 20% to 21.5%. I walked in, the cigarette gone, and he said, "Man, would you put that stinking thing out?" And I look over at the machine, and we got way too much oxygen in the room, so I went back out, put the cigarette out, came back in, and said, "Do you have the windows and doors open?" He said, "No." So the engine is actually cleaning the air up. He said, "Well, yeah. Isn't that what it's supposed to do?" I said, "Well, yeah, it is. When it's running perfect. But it's still against the law. I can't go around putting it on cars." Now, they're raising hell about the coal. They're raising hell about the trucks that don't get good mileage. Yet, one of the guys who put it on his truck was getting triple mileage, and he got penalized by IRS. They wanted $50,000 for all the road tests that he burned the government out of. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a problem with the way the system goes and how that scale works. Please tell me, what am I doing wrong? Was I just born maybe 50 years too early? Man just isn't ready to have clean air yet? Or is it just government trying to stop it? I think the people want good mileage, want to keep that money in their wallet, and the government wants it all, so they're going to stop it from happening. Just like Nikola Tesla. What do you mean free electricity? Are you nuts? You must be. We don't have a meter on it. Yeah. Things are a little backwards. And anytime they see anybody falling through that crack that's going to get away with something, boy, they change the laws as fast as they can. If you tell them you could take tires to get 32 hours worth of generator time off a tire, they're going to make tire hauling illegal like they did in California. If you start talking about using crude oil, all of a sudden you have to have a special permit to haul crude oil. You know, every time we come up with something that works, they'll be within the system rules, they change the rules.
That's right. And again, government has no control over on the citizens, so they got to make criminals out of it. They are trying to make these backyard gardens. They're trying to make them illegal. Compost piles. You can generate power. You can run a generator off compost piles, can't you?
You can have all the things you want for your homes from the compost pile if you know how to put it together. Well, they don't want you doing that. They want you to use electricity and propane and natural gas to heat your home. We wouldn't want you to be independent. That means you got money in your pocket. We live off debt. And if you become an income-producing entity, we go shut your doors. They might catch on.
Well, they have exported our jobs, and the jobs we got left, they're bringing the illegals in, so they'll work cheaper.
Yep.
But if you talk about that, suddenly you're a racist. I don't know, Paul. You know, everything that we've talked about in this show makes sense. It's just common sense. It's, you know, I think we've had this knowledge. Tesla said we're just rediscovering what they knew 10,000 years ago. How do they build the pyramids? It had to be, since we can't lift one of the blocks of a pyramid with anything short of a diesel crane, how did they build that 10,000 years ago? I think it was with anti-gravity. In one of in this next issue, the June issue of the magazine, which hopefully, if I've got the money to pay for the computer repairs, my computer was hacked, it was shut down. The last time I talked to the computer repairman yesterday morning on the air, he hadn't been able to figure out how it'd work on DOS, but it wouldn't work on Windows. The computer got hacked, and he still hasn't got it operating properly. Can't access the keyboard. You can do it in DOS, but you can't do it in Windows. So I gave him another day to try to figure that out. But if we do this, we can... I've got stories about Germany, about their submarines, about Hitler being transported to Argentina, where he died in the mountains in his lodge up in the mountains. And so we're not even given right history. You know, Martin Bormann and Hitler, they retired to Argentina. And Hitler was financed by the banks. It was the Warburgs and, the German corporations there that benefited off war the same way they're benefiting off of General Electric and the other companies here right now. I mean, my God, it's just incredible to me how much they're making. How that one company that we talked about, it was or somebody put up that over the past 5 years, General Electric, Boeing, and Verizon paid nothing in federal income taxes, but they made $778 billion in profit combined since 2008. That comes from a congressman. Maybe a gay congressman, maybe a independent congressman, but the facts are the facts.
Yep.
78 billion. If you and I had 78 billion to work with, we could change everything in this country into something that was good for the people. Now, that kind of brings me to a conversation that Joe McCarthy, who was demonized, had with the guy they threw out of that 13th floor of the Bethesda Naval Hospital. He said something about the communists being stupid, and the gentleman I'm speaking of here said, no, consistency is not the mark of stupidity. If they were just stupid, occasionally they'd make a mistake in our favor. If we had 78 billion to work with, we could turn this around. We could have the majority of automobiles. We could convert the automobiles that they're stacking up. These automobiles are being stacked up in brand new cars, like stacked up like junkyards.
Yep. Yeah, I watched a video on that the other day. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands per location or per country of all of these brand new cars that are being built, just put in yards, old airports, runways, parking lots, anywhere they could find to park them, just to keep the production going, to say, oh yeah, we're still building more cars than we thought we would this year. So we're not selling any, we're building more. Yeah,
no wonder GM is losing money, huh? Why they're moving and that's why they're moving all these factories to China, because you still got a bunch of people there that are still totally deluded, sold a communist country, and they don't know.
Yeah, it's sad to say though, they have more interest in geek than we do here. They've come up with a couple of proposals that I kind of like. Let's go ahead and use water as fuel for at least 50-50 with gas, and we'll put a dye in it so it's green, and we'll sell it as green gas, get you 80% less pollution, and yeah, you're going to get better mileage, but we're getting paid for water. But it's a way to help clean up the planet, so it's better than not using the technology at all. So right now, I am looking at all offers from any place in the world as very valid offers that people are trying to do it. But even the dirty politics, as long as they're not losing a lot of money and they can invest in their new companies and build the product, yeah, they don't mind building them. They just don't want to lose that threshold on chokehold they have on us. And it offends me, but at this point, I didn't get any support from the government. I'm sure the heck not getting any public support. It's been real stressful. I mean, I got rent due today, and I'm about $21 short. And there's no place I can go to get it. I've got rent. So as soon as I'm done with this show, I get right back on that phone. I talk to people that want to come to school.
Well, any way I can help, you just let me know. You know, it was New Mexico. It was New Mexico when the FBI listed me in their little report guide to right-wing extremists, and they gave the chief of the state police. They gave him as a contact. I called him up, and he said, "Clay, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." I said, "Well, that's easy for you to say, Chief. I think they're trying to arrange death by cop for me, you know?"
Yep.
He said, "Clay, I've been reading your magazine for 10 years.
Yep.
You don't have a thing to worry about for me or any of my men." I said, "Well, what about the podunk cop there in Socorro, New Mexico, that thinks I'm some kind of terrorist?" He said, "Clay, the governor recalled every booklet from every police station in New Mexico. So maybe I should consider coming back to New Mexico. What are the pot laws there now?"
Well, right now I'm looking at setting up in a couple of museums some of our equipment here. I'll be holding classes, just one-night classes, so people can come in and see it. Little mini classes all over the city here in Albuquerque and surrounding little communities. We want the public to see what is available and let it spread from here. We've gotten the normal beat your head against the wall with big companies, but the people want it. And they're getting tired of waiting to see any big company come to the table. So we're going to do it on the grassroots like we started 36 years ago. And if that's one little group at a time, then we do it one little group at a time.
Well, you know, I started the Free American right there in Albuquerque at the Wake Up America meetings. I started a militia there in Albuquerque with the Wake Up America meetings. And it went well until I moved to Arizona and they tried to kill me.
Yep. Well, I have the same problem in Utah and California. So those are two states I don't go back to.
Well, you know, I'm kind of looking for a home. I'm looking for a place to relocate. You know, I could probably, while the fifth wheeler still got good enough tires on it to make it somewhere.
Yeah.
If we could work it out somewhere where I could actually bring in an income and do some good work here, we've got the technology. It's just like you're teaching that. There are more ways to teach the whole composting thing. Growing food. We could do. Where did all these neighborhoods come from, Paul? We got to take 1 square block in Albuquerque. Used to be a farm, didn't it? Used to be a ranch, didn't it? Used to be grassland where the cows were grazing, didn't it? Why couldn't we turn that neighborhood, if we worked together, if we actually got out and talked to our neighbors, why couldn't we turn that 1 square block into an energy-independent neighborhood and show it off all over the world? growing food in the backyard.
I'm going to do on some Indian land because the Indians are a lot more reasonable than the rest of the country. And we can do a lot more out there.
Well, you know,
within the rules that government put on, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs says you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't have over unity machines, you can't give electricity away and cross the property line. You can't. So I'm getting tired of you can't. I'd like to find better people right there.
Now, one of the whole things that I ended up with the whole Liberty Village thing, instead of just putting up cabins that cost $10,000, I said, why don't we put up teepees? They cost $5,000. You could put 6 veterans in a teepee, and they could be pretty comfortable. Why not? You know, and if you're driving down the road and you see 10 teepees lit up, a yurt in the middle of it, and a sign that says hot coffee and vacancy, I think we could rent it out. I plan to do that on the 5 acres I had in Bingham, New Mexico. But then, of course, they sent somebody in that bought it from me and kicked me off of the property as soon as we closed.
Yep. Well, we're on the same page. Don't do the same stuff.
All right, let's we got about 10 minutes left here. Let's take that 10 minutes to tell people about your...
They can get a hold of me directly. My phone number, which don't call now because I'm on the radio with you, but it's 580-251-0651. The company is Geek, G-E-E-T, international.com. I'm easy to reach. I answer my phone from usually about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm on Mountain Time, and I answer until 5, 6 o'clock every evening. I'm on Skype, and it's the same as my mailing address. Or no, it isn't, $8. But my mailing address is Pantone@yahoo.com, and my Skype is Inventor58. It's pretty
what?
easy to remember that.
What is it again?
Inventor58.
Inventor58, okay.
Yep. And it's funny, I get more calls from around the world on Skype than I ever do from locals on the phone. We got more people interested in this technology from Africa, Asia, South America, China, Japan, you name it. They all want the technology. And we're getting so much more response internationally than we are here. We're setting up internationally.
Paul,
So if anything happens to set up down here, our other office in Europe, or the one in New Zealand, they'll be opening up and they'll take right over the site.
now, Paul, you have your phone number up on your website, and I've got links to your website there. I've got links to the show. People could download this show from Blog Talk Radio and send it around, share it with people. And I've been doing this for a lot of years. When I was on worldwide shortwave, I got calls from all over the world. Since I've been on just Blog Talk and just my website, I don't get any phone calls. I don't understand that. I really don't. It's like I keep hearing Don Henley in the background saying, we've met the enemy and he is us. Why wouldn't people pick up a phone and say, you know, Clay, it was a great show today. I appreciate you having it on. How could I help? How could I help? Well, maybe that's exactly it. They're afraid I'm going to ask them for money.
It isn't bothering that much anymore.
Beg your pardon?
40 years ago, but now, no. We've had so many people who have called me up saying, hey, I want to come to your school. I don't have that $2,200 or $3,500. I can't make it. There's no way. I lost my job. I lost my home. I lost my cars. This is a depression, no matter how you look at it. So when you do get some funds, you better buy all the top ramen you can. The government has shut the doors, made the banks and everybody else rich, but not the people. It's trying to bend us to the point where we can't do anything other than say, yes, we'll come to your camp. We need food. We need heat. We need a place to sleep.
And they are doing that. They made when George Bush gave the bankers a couple of $1 trillion. Instead of giving it to the people so they could pay off their loans, they lost their homes. The banks became the landlords. They'll rent it to you now, and they have they've impoverished the people, and now these FEMA camps that we've been talking about and warning about for so many years, they are using them to house the homeless. So homeless people are disappearing. They made it illegal in some states to be homeless. But you can go to the FEMA camp, you can check into the FEMA camp, well, it ain't quite like being in prison. If you get permission, if you take the bus, you can leave.
Yeah.
But you gotta have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
But for the moment, here, and some of these FEMA camps have guillotines standing right there.
Well, these are for the bad people. Yeah, anybody who says anything bad about the government, you ain't bad. We got a place for you. Yeah. You got to talk about how good, honest people they are, and how hardworking they are, and all those lies.
And they're trying to demonize anybody that talks about conspiracies. They're trying to demonize the veterans. They're trying to drug the veterans. I mean, this is, and I know what they're giving them. Halcyon, Haldol, Valium. They tried to kill me with that. They tried to drive me crazy with that. I know what it does to you. And these veterans are being fed that. Why? Whoa! Well, they've got something really bad happen to them. They went to Iraq, they went to Afghanistan, and they came back with a conscience.
Oh, God. Can you imagine that?
I'm
looking at the just came in a few seconds ago on the show here. And the top of the news here says, Las Vegas police lied about the shooter's suicide pact. At the bottom of the list it says, Las Vegas police intentionally omitted cop killers tied to Occupy movement. Yesterday the story was it was tied to the Bundy Ranch, and the Bundys came forward and said, no, throw them off the ranch. They were too radical. We didn't want people out here stirring shit. We wanted honest Americans that wanted to defend our rights, not go after cops, not hurt anybody. No, you guys are making all this crap up. So here's 3 stories in 2 days about the cops lying. Yet not one cop is even going to get a slap on the hand. They're probably all sitting back there having a donut and laughing.
That's right. Again, the attempt to demonize, and they're calling them conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
Trying to tie them with the Bundys.
Yeah, I was joking around with a friend the other day, and I told him, I said, well, if I had to shut Geek down because of the American lack of support, then what would I open up for a business? And he said, oh, hell, a donut shop. I said, right. God, it makes you killing.
It's really incredible. That was that incident in Las Vegas. That was a whole psyops. Those were mind-controlled MK Ultra candidates, and you know they're taught to shoot themselves, just like the Colorado shooter, just like the Sandy Hook shooter. Of course, you know, a little inconvenient. Sandy Hook was a little inconvenient because nobody ever saw a body, and the only parents you saw were laughing and giggling on television about the performance they put on.
Yeah. Well, I watched so much on that one. All I could do is laugh. And at first, I was shocked. I was horrified, emotionally upset over something like that happening in school. But then when the Boston Marathon thing hit, and it's the same girl that supposedly was the principal and died up there in Sandy Hook. Here she is at the Boston Marathon in the same outfit, same earrings, and she has got such a unique feature about her mouth you couldn't miss her in a million years. And here she is, alive and well, another stage situation. I'm sitting here going, you got to be kidding me. Am I the only one that can see and add 2 and 2? Or do we just look at it and go, no, that didn't happen? But that reminds me of the situation with Diana, Princess Diana, when she died. I was sitting in Covington, Kentucky, in a lounge area with my wife and a couple of friends, when that announcement came on that she had just died in a car accident, and the car was coming out of the tunnel, and it had a round emblem on the tow truck that pulled it out, and that was on British BBC. About an hour later, we saw another truck coming out with a different vehicle on it on CNN, saying there's been a horrible accident and she's dead and blah, 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 and here comes the vehicle. Now, that's not the same vehicle. That's not the same car. And everybody that was sitting in the lounge, there were about 50 people there, is that the same big car? No. Totally different vehicles. History is being rewritten as it's happening.
Well,
I don't know if you can still hear me, but the static of this thing keeps getting so loud, I can't tell if I'm being disconnected or what.
No, you're staying on. You're staying on. The sound's still coming through, and I'm still recording. We lost about the first half of the program on YouTube, but the second half came through and is working here, and it's the most important. And you know, if folks, the only thing I can tell you is that if we work together somehow, if we can figure out how to, overcome this divide and conquer that is evident everywhere you turn. Oh, he's that. Oh, nobody's saying anything good about the people that are out there working. They're finding fault with them. Oh, he said this. He did this. And the only ones that are working that seem to be doing okay are the people like Alex Jones. Be afraid, be very, very afraid. Has Alex Jones ever called you to invite you on his program, Paul?
No, we've tried to get on his show several times. We don't even return phone calls.
Well, I wonder why. Because you've actually got the answers.
Yeah, you got something.
You got the answers, and they tell me on my jacket, on my criminal jacket, they got it in large letters, will not cooperate. And I'd be willing to bet they got the same thing written on yours.
Yeah, the problem is, I have publicly said on radio shows all over the country that I would be happy to let the Chrysler, any American company, use the technology and get it out to mankind as long as we're reducing emissions and giving people better mileage. I don't even charge more than a dime a car. And they've saved so much money not having to put smog pumps on, catalytic converters. I mean, they could reduce the cost of a car probably $1,000 a car. But are they interested? No. Not this lifetime.
Alright, we got about 2 minutes left, folks. FreeAmerican.com is the website. That has my phone number. If you want to help, if you want to make a contribution, if you want to order a magazine or two, go there and do that. The donate button will do that. I'll send you copies of the magazine as soon as I get my computer out of the shop. Let's figure out ways we can work together. There is promise on the horizon there. And go to the website now, link up to Paul Pantone's GeekInternational.com. The links are there. It's up on my Facebook site, Free American 69, Twitter site, Free American 69, YouTube, Free American 69. It's not like we ain't got the way, but why aren't we getting 100,000 hits? Why?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm always amazed when I look at the numbers of people who go to my website, and I see the numbers up sometimes around 400,000 or 500,000 hits. But I'm still only getting 10, 20 emails a day.
When my emails are there, our links are there, get active. Don't just sit there. Thank you, Paul Pantone. Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Elected politicians, get the news behind the news at truthradio.com. At Truth Radio, you can listen live or listen to a large selection of archived programs on demand. Listen when you want to. truthradio.com. The truth is out there. All you have to do is open your mind and listen.
Back in the days when Barack Obama was only a state senator and a law professor, he was interviewed on a radio station in the Chicago area, WBEZ, and he let his views, he let it air down. He let